Hello and welcome to yet another edition of The Focal Point. My name is Bat Kakoza. Following the screening of stories about two boys that were sodomized by a pastor, I was confronted by a group of 4 self-proclaimed homosexual people who asserted that I unfairly portrayed homosexuals in my program as young boys rapists. They voluntarily offered to openly be interviewed to express their concern. That gave me the reason to have a closer focus at the issue of homosexuality in Uganda. I also interviewed other people who advocate for homosexuality and those that totally are against it. "31-year-old Juliet Victor Mukasa says he's a banker by training and a self-declared human rights defender in her lesbian organization, LGB.
My life for the last 5 years has been in defending the rights of homosexuals and transgendered people."
What is transgender?
Transgender is about people who transgress gender norms. This is about gender identity. It's about people who feel and behave the opposite of their biological sex. I am, for example, transgender. I am born a biological female, but it's not how I feel inside me.
So, you now feel like a man?
I don't feel like a man either.
What do you feel like now?
I just feel that I am Victor. I am not feeling like a woman. I am not feeling like a man. Sometimes I'll feel like a man. Very few times I'll feel like a woman.
Since my previous program focused on child sodomization by some pastors in some churches and the fact that homosexuality is a moral issue, I approached church leaders for their opinion.
You know what? That is a confusing propaganda. Transmigration. You know, metrosex. Now, it's as if you can move from Bwaise as a man, you get to Kampala as a woman. This is what we call confusion. Gender identity disorder, gender identity confusion. So when your son or daughter comes up and say, "Hey, daddy, I'm gay," all you have to do for them is say, "You know what? Somebody is confusing you."
Do you engage in sexual acts?
Well, that is not even part of my gender identity. My sexual orientation is that I am a lesbian, and yeah, I'm sexually active.
You said you are neither woman nor man. So how do you practice sex?
Sex is not about man and woman. Sex, we all feel it. It comes from the brain, and whatever we use for sex is just, they're just kind of like items. How you use it depends on
So
each
do you
individual.
practice it?
I am sexually active.
Do you practice sex with a woman or a man?
I am a lesbian, meaning that I am attracted physically, emotionally, spiritually to women.
But you've just told me you are neither woman nor man.
Gender transgression still does not place me in that one box. That is what I'm trying to talk about. I do not conform to any of the gender roles, gender practices, what we have been told as we grow up that we are supposed to be, and even how I feel inside. I've told you that I may feel at some point as a woman, but I cannot feel like a woman all my life. And likewise, I do not feel as a man all the time, and yet sometimes I'll feel like a man.
In psychology, we have what we call in the Diagnostic Statistic Manual, DSM-4, Gender Identity Confusion, okay, GIC. That is listed in the standard psychological books up to today. This is where a boy who's grown up as a boy has ambivalent feeling towards his gender and wants to be known as a girl. This is where you have boys, they hide their private parts between their legs, they start cross-dressing. It's a disorder. Then you have girls who have a gender identity disorder. They don't want to be known as girls. These are girls who tie their breasts so that they are not seen as girls. They wear boys' trousers and they pretend, oh no, this is for everybody. Now for me, Victoria or Vicky, she's suffering from acute gender identity disorder. And she needs therapy, she needs prayer, she needs counseling.
Kasha Jacqueline Nabagesera says he's an accountant by training and a volunteer human rights defender in her lesbian organization called Freedom and Rome, Uganda. Are you homosexual yourself?
Yes, I'm a proud lesbian woman.
Do you have partners?
I have a partner. I'm in a committed relationship.
How long have you been in the relationship?
With my current partner?
Yeah.
It's 1 year now.
So,
but I've had long times in relationships, like 3 years, 4 years.
in order for society to understand you, there are a few things that people need to know about you. So, when you practice sex, you as Kasha, do you act as woman or man?
Wait, what makes you think that someone has to act like a man?
Because that's what we know.
No, I think that's ignorance, and you're right to say that that's what you know. It doesn't have to be role play. If I'm a woman and I'm in love with women, I don't see why I should behave like a man or I should behave like a woman. Because me, I behave like Kasha. I don't behave like a man, or I don't behave like other women, or what. I just behave like Kasha. So in my relationship, it's just strictly two women who are psychologically, physically, emotionally, and mentally attracted to each other, and sexually.
Then why do you lesbians use sex toys identified with male sexual organs?
I don't. I know people use them, but I don't. Sex preference. For you might wake up this morning and you feel you want to sleep with your partner using a sex toy. Why not? Who refuses you? It's your right to enjoy sex, as long as you consent. You're both adults and you're consenting to it. So I don't see why I should wake up in the morning and I feel like using a sex toy, and I don't use it because I hear if you use a sex toy, you're not having sex, or you're supposed to be a lesbian or something like that. No.
Your organization is mad at me because I exposed a scandal that involved a homosexual pastor who sodomized boys. That's why you offered to come on my show.
My version is not mad at you. It's just the way you portray it. It's like homosexuals are just rapists, molesters who are out there. So I'm just here to give another positive side of the story. Fine. Myself, I wouldn't support a homosexual who is raping people, who is molesting children.
27-year-old Kagawa Paul is a self-confessed homosexual. He says he's a businessman dealing in the sale of second-hand clothes. You are homosexual.
Yeah.
You practice sex with man.
Yeah.
Why?
It's my natural orientation.
How do you know that is your natural sexual orientation?
Yeah, because from I think to get to know that you need someone, it can start with 14 years and go, but not from even 14. Starting when I was young, I was not needing girls.
How do you know that?
I found it because even I was in a mixed school, I was in a public situation like this. But my situation, my way, I was having a desire with men.
Do you have a partner?
Yeah.
A man just like you?
Yeah.
You live together?
We live together for 6 years now.
Now, do you refer to him as wife or husband?
All of us, we call what we like, but we are partners, you have asked.
In your relationship, what role do you play?
That is, I think, is our way, because it's sexy. It doesn't need that this one must be man, or this one must be woman, this one must be up, or this one must be down. But I think we all feel okay, and we feel now, I think what we like.
They give an image that it is okay. This is not okay. It is painful to put anything in anyone's rectum. It is unclean. The whole practice is unclean and absolutely disgusting. I talked to the professor of anatomy, Professor Sam Lubogo. You should get him on your thing. Professor Sam Lubogo. He wrote a paper, not even using religion, but using science. The question was, is the human anatomy designed for homosexuality? And he showed that it was not. He showed that the rectum, the anal sphincter of a man, was not designed to put in, but to put out. And many of these young people, when their anal sphincter has been used over a period of time, it relaxes and can no longer hold the stool. And so people are walking around wearing nappies. If you check on some of these homosexuals who are running around saying, hey, many of them are wearing nappies because they're having what they call the gay bowel syndrome. This syndrome is where people buy itika because they can no longer control their stool.
It is Saturday night. Students mainly from Makerere University gather by the university swimming pool. The weekly event is known as Prime Time. Conceived with a Christian background, it is a time for students to socialize and openly talk about social issues faced by the youth. HIV/AIDS is the main issue here. It was started by Pastor Martin Semper of Makerere Community Church, a strong advocate for the need to restore morals among the youth based on Christian teachings. One of the topics Semper does not mince words about is his strong abhorrence for homosexuality.
Anatomy 101 gives you just a basic lesson that design determines purpose. The boy has got a and the girl has got a. These two are made for each other. I'm sorry to be a little crude, but for these people, you must be. You must be for them to understand. Homosexuality is wrong and evil because it breaks three laws. It breaks the law of God, it breaks the law of nature, it breaks the law of man. Let me explain. I'll start with the law of man. The law of man classifies homosexuality as a natural act. It is an act against the order of nature. For a man to insert his in another man's rectum is unnatural. In fact, that is why the law is made to enhance the second law, the natural law. The natural law says male goes with female. There is a universal law. Even birds know. Even animals know. You don't see a male dog mating with another dog, unless, of course, if it's confused. Number 3, it breaks the law of God. God is very clear. He says, you do not lie with a man as a man lies with a woman. And a woman lying with another woman is, in the book of Romans chapter 1, is an evil. It's an abomination. So why is there anything so reprehensible about homosexuality? It's an unusual sin because it's one sin that breaks 3 laws. Now, you can steal, and you'll break 1 law, the law of man. But you've not steal food, you've not stolen against the order of nature.
Are people born homosexuals?
I'm sure that people are born homosexuals because I believe I was born a homosexual.
Well, are there some who acquire it?
It is possible that people have been nurtured into homosexuality in so many ways.
Pastor Serwada is the owner of Victory Church in Deva. During his intensely charged sermons, he indirectly hints at homosexuality. For him, homosexuality is one vice that has been imported into Uganda from the West.
This country, I'm sorry to say, has allowed itself to be the dumping pit of everything wicked, everything devilish that the first world has had to offer. It started off with dress codes. It went extended into what we watch on the media, what we listen to. Now it has extended into actual lives. Forget the small bit of homosexuality and lesbianism that you hear of this nation. Did you realize that there are people now advocating for homosexuality to be legalized in this nation? Where are we copying this from? Obviously from the West. When they come to our churches, Mr. Kakoza, the first thing we do is, if we know Brett has that problem, we're going to confront it. We're going to pray with them. We pray the prayers of deliverance. We pray that they will be delivered from this wicked spirit that takes over the mind and takes over the body. And so that they are not just free from the evil that is around them, but they are also free from these bad habits, which they have copied.
This is a mid-morning Sunday service in progress at Namirembe Christian Fellowship Church. This church is popular for its melodious choir. The main man here is Pastor Simeon Kaiwa, a famous and well-respected pastor. He too strongly believes homosexuality is alien and should not be allowed to take roots in our society.
Homosexuals are not born. They're just taught or they're conditioned by circumstances to be homosexuals. The Bible actually condemns homosexuality as a unnatural act that should not be practiced by Christians. As long as I'm alive, I won't allow it to remain here, to be here at all. As long as I'm alive, I will not allow it in politics, because for me, I've got numbers behind me, that can vote against the president who support homosexuality. It doesn't matter whether other people in other parts of the world are saying, Mr. President, you must legalize this. I'll fight against it.
This is a mass wedding at Omega International Ministries, Zana, an annual event where over 50 couples wed. It is an initiative that was started by Pastor Michael Chaze to promote holy matrimony among the faithfuls. It emphasizes the importance of Christian teachings about marriage between man and woman to form a family. Pastor Chaze believes this is one way to fight homosexuality.
If homes are between a man and woman, then values and morals that build a strong home and bring up godly offsprings are established in a nation and in communities.
Bishop Senyonjo is an Anglican bishop that has been ostracized by the Church of Uganda for his stand on homosexuality. He holds a PhD in sexuality from Yale University in the United States. He passionately supports homosexuality and calls for its tolerance.
Homosexuality has been there among people, and it should be understood. It should be understood. And my contention is, do you understand the causes of homosexuality before you condemn them? St. Paul is my mentor, because St. Paul was a Jew. But he knew that salvation was not meant only for the Jews. And he said, even the Gentiles could be welcomed. At the beginning, this was not accepted, but he insisted. And we could say that many of us are Christians because of Paul. Otherwise, if you wanted to become a Christian, you almost had to become a Jew first by circumcision. And that's what some people are saying. If these people are really to be accepted as people of God, they should renounce being homosexuals. And this is not as easy as people say, because this thing is inborn in some of them. I say in some of them, because I know, according to my counseling, there are others whom I would say it is situational. This is by accident. And if they are counseled, they may feel they are not comfortable to be homosexuals.
He also says it does not contradict the church's teachings. The Church of Uganda has sidelined you.
Yes.
Why?
Because I chose not to condemn directly the homosexuals.
Because it is against Christian teachings.
No, it is not. It is not. It is not against the love of God.
But it's against Christianity, the principles of Christianity.
You can't have principles of Christianity without Jesus. But what is my guideline? Me.
The Bible.
No. I may disappoint you. I may disappoint, and I've disappointed people.
A bishop?
Well, I'm a bishop, but God has illuminated a number of things. Jesus is the Word of God. And the Bible, whatever is focusing on, Jesus.
Genesis chapter 18 to 19 talk about Sodom and Gomorrah, the two cities that were destroyed by God as punishment for the rampant homosexuality that prevailed in society at the time. But Bishop Senyonjo and self-confessed homosexuals have their own translation of the scriptures.
I have read Sodom and Gomorrah. I have researched about Sodom and Gomorrah, and Sodom and Gomorrah was destroyed because of sin and not homosexuality. It's just that the people who sinned at that time were homosexuals.
The story of Sodom and Gomorrah has confused, I would say confused, a lot of people. Because they say, well, Sodom and Gomorrah were destroyed because of homosexuality. But when you study this, you find this not may be the whole truth. It was really lack of hospitality. And this lack of hospitality led to some of these immoral actions as a kind of humiliating the strangers. So this lack of hospitality was condemned.
Although they dress and appear like men, both Victor and Kasha seem to have identity crisis.
Why do you like dressing like a man?
I just dress the way I feel comfortable. And this is how I feel comfortable.
Do you change your attire depending on how you feel inside you?
I've never willingly dressed like a woman.
But you have.
I have been forced to dress like a woman in school. I have been forced to dress like a woman at home in the earlier years.
But I just said, you told me that at some time you feel like a woman. So do you at one time feel like a woman and dress like a woman?
No, I do not dress like women.
Yet you are a woman.
I am not a woman. I've told you, I do not feel like a woman, or I do not feel...
Well, no, but the fact remains that you are a woman.
I do not feel the way you look at me and think I am.
But you practice lesbianism.
I am a lesbian.
Then you are a woman because a man cannot practice lesbianism.
You know something bad? I'm an expert at my sexual orientation. I am an expert at my at my gender identity. I am a lesbian and I am a transgender.
You have confessed yourself that you are a lesbian and therefore you are a woman. Why are you dressed like a man?
How do men dress?
They dress the way you are dressed because...
I didn't know that. I'm dressed the way I feel comfortable. I didn't know men dress like this. Is there any dress code here in the world that men should dress like this or women should dress like this?
No. There are conventional attire that are intended for men and women. For example, I can't wear a dress.
Because you don't want?
No.
Oh, because you don't feel smart?
No, I can't wear a dress because I'm a man.
Oh, no.
For the homosexuals, heterosexual sex is not a big deal in as far as procreation is concerned.
In the biblical Genesis, it is written that God created Adam. And he realized that Adam was lonely. So he decided to create a helper for him. In that case, he created a woman. Why do you think he did not create a fellow man to be with Adam?
As I told you, with religion we shall go deep and deep and deep. I don't want to go into details with that. But God did not create Adam and Eve to produce children. He did not.
But is there any room for homosexuality in Uganda?
Well, fortunately for much of Africa, it's totally unacceptable and human, abnormal, a kind of abnormality that really no one wants to ponder, rather consider as obtaining in our country. It's abominable. It's a perversion. It's an attempt to turn upside down God's order. And we're talking about homosexuality, bisexuals, transgender. You mentioned the word bestiality. I think next time they will be convincing us that bestiality is also a condition that the defenders of human rights should start promoting. I guess next time they'll say, look, taking drugs is a right. Going naked on the streets of Kampala is a right. And it's about, therefore, defense of values. Values and institutions like family, like marriage, all these are under attack. an attempt to change the values that are responsible for stability of a society, that are responsible, quite frankly, for security of a society. There are those values which give meaning, identity to any society. Those are under attack now. And so we do expect hard times ahead of us. I think it's essential that our people are mobilized and sensitized to expect more times of hardship, of tremendous pressure from these sources I've mentioned to you in times to come.
We want to be free and roam the whole of Uganda, just like heterosexuals are roaming. That's why we want freedom and roam. It's lesbian, bisexual, transgender, intersex women.
I'm lobbying the government to put our sexual orientation into the consideration, into the same way as the straight one.
I'll fight until these rights are here.
Now, we have a crisis in our country. We have economic promoters of homosexuality because there is money to be made. You know, people say, nekolera mali, abogera bogeri.
Well, homosexuality still remains a very controversial issue in Uganda. Whether it will one day be acceptable is a big question, considering the strong abhorrence from society. Well, that's all we had time for from Focal Point Desk. Don't forget to tune in next time for yet another edition of the Focal Point. I'm Bat Kakoza, wishing you a pleasant Sunday evening.